Susan Frederick Gray, and you are with?
I'm the minister of the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Phoenix, Arizona. I'm a Unitarian Universalist minister.
Okay, so I just wanted to ask you basically what you would say to other people of faith, Christians specifically, I guess, that seem to support a lot of the agenda of ALEC as far as immigration, schools, a whole host of things, labor. What you would say to them as far as, if you were having a conversation with them, and how you would at least try to change their opinion about, who they're supporting in electoral politics these days.
Well, as a person of faith, I see that we have a broken immigration system. As an American, I see we have a broken immigration system, and I have learned and seen the stories of families who are caught in this broken immigration system. We have had a failure of immigration law, so we've had workers come here to fill needed jobs. We've had a need for workers and no legal pathway for people to come here. Given that, we have a situation now that's untenable. But we have people here, we have families that are citizens and non-citizens, that some are documented, some are not, but they're families. And immigration laws like SB 1070 and others that criminalize people and focus only on enforcement and criminalization tear apart families. As a person of faith, I believe we are all called to love one another. We are called to protect the most vulnerable in our country, in our world. That is what the Bible says throughout, that we are here. We need to stand with the poor, with the children, with the orphans. And right now, children, U.S. citizens, are being orphaned because of our enforcement-only and deportation policy. Some statistics that have said that 200,000 U.S. citizen children have had a parent deported by the U.S. government. We are creating orphans in this country. That is immoral. As people of faith, we have to protect families, and we have to protect children, and we have to protect workers who are being treated with absolutely no rights and are completely vulnerable. That is the religious call. That's Jesus' call. That's the call of the prophets in the Old Testament, the Hebrew Bible, to stand on the side of the oppressed and to break the bonds of oppression.
So is that what would you tell if you were sitting at a table and having a conversation about these issues with some other fellow people of faith? Are those the things that you tell them, and do you ever get any reaction that, yeah, I think maybe I've been on the wrong side of these issues?
I have not had those conversations, but I know people who have, and who've talked about the way people get stereotyped, and many of us experience being stereotyped, and that's what's happening to hardworking people, to families, to children in this country, with a lot of false information. So sometimes, I think facts are important. In the 1990s, for those of us who can remember the gains and the growth of our society in the 1990s, when we only had 4% unemployment, we had a huge labor crisis, and we did not create legal entries for people, but yet there were jobs right here in Arizona that needed to be filled. It was as if we created an economic vacuum, drawing people over the border to these jobs. And then, when we increased border security, we prevented migrant workers from going back and forth, and we got people stuck here, because they couldn't afford, or they wouldn't take the risks of moving with the cartels back and forth across the border. We've created a system, a completely vulnerable population. How is it, when people ask me, what don't I understand about illegal, I say, how is it that we have 12 million people undocumented in this country? That is not a fluke. That's not one bad seed. That is the result of policy that has led to a whole class of vulnerable people in this country, and that's immoral. It's immoral to have a group of workers that have no rights and no protections.
And yet ALEC wants to write legislation that would put those people in private prisons for profit.
Absolutely. SB 1070, people need to understand that it was written with the influence and significant input of private corporation, of the Correction Corporation of America, of private prison industries. 1 in 31 Americans today is in prison or on probation. We have an unprecedented number of people in jails. For those of you Americans out there, people of faith who care about liberty, it's important to look at the prisons. The ACLU has said that the United States represents 5% of the world's population and 25% of the world's incarcerated. That means 1 in every 4 people incarcerated across the globe are incarcerated here in the United States. How can that happen in a land of liberty?
And they're using taxpayer dollars for their profits.
Our taxpayer dollars go to the private prison industry for every bed they have filled, for every day they have it filled. And they see immigrants as the new growth industry for the private prison industry.
Thanks a lot.
We need to respond out of the moral call to love one another, to have a just and fair society that honors equal human dignity and human worth. There is no religion that doesn't hold human dignity at its heart and core. And that's where I stand, and that's where I hope other faith leaders will come to stand with me, with the faith on this issue.